day. You think about that, what? Yes, about your teeth and all sorts of information around that. Now, we want you to imagine a situation where you bite or drink your favorite foods or drink, and you don't have to do that with any kind of teeth sensitivity. When you sip your hot coffee CT, when you bite into that ice cream aceto, I know you like ice cream. Don't ask me how I know, but I know. And so when you do that, imagine that you don't have to do that with any kind of tooth sensitivity. But you don't have to imagine anymore, because Sensodyne says you can actually have ultimate relief from tooth sensitivity. And we know this because it's the #1 brand recommended by dentists. And the World Health Oral Day coming up, we're reminding you that a happy mouth is a happy mind. So you had an opportunity to go out into your favorite stores and get 50% off on Sensodyne products. But even after that, you keep remembering that Sensodyne is for tooth sensitivity relief and everyday oral health. Sour. Thanks. All right. We're getting into a conversation this hour. We've seen a number of things happen over the last few days. That there have been shifts in government, there have been replacements, there have been additions, there have been people on the international scene. When we look at Kenya's foreign appointments, when we look at internal appointments, there have been all sorts of things happening. And then today on the headlines, we look at Don't Trust Raila and a conversation around what really happened to broker this deal that we see these appointments coming in later. So there's a whole conversation around this and what it could actually mean for the country moving forward. To help us out with that conversation, our guest is already in the hot seat in the person of one Mr. Herman Manyara. Good morning.
Morning, Shudu.
How are you?
Wonderfully wonderful.
Wonderfully wonderful.
Yes.
It's fantastic when we can use two adjectives following one another, and the adjective becomes a verb.
Correct.
But it is great.
Wonderful.
And you have a splendid shirt, man.
Thank you.
I'm telling you. And Edna saw it first and, told us that there's something coming.
Asante.
And truly, she was correct. She was correct. Good to have you in the room.
Thank you.
And you've been in the hot seat before, of course. Yes. And it's great that you can be here because, look, some of these conversations that we have today, even hotter. But as we do that, CT has been taking us around the coup belt. He'll tell you what he means by that. And we have a new basket of proverbs this week. So, of course, you'll interpret. This one is very nice. He's even done it in 2 languages. Oh. But let me not spoil the fun and allow him to do that.
We are in the Islamic Republic of Mauritania.
Mauritania.
Yes. Islamic Republic, that says everything. I don't need to tell you more. Very rich history. Very, very rich history. And as I was regaling my colleagues here with information, I told them that there are there are several communities in this country, but 2 that stand out. They are the community that they call White Moors, and there is a community they call Black Moors. The Black Moors are the Haraditin community. That's the community. That's what they're called. Then there's the Bidan. Those are the White Moors. Now, to understand this history, you need to understand that what we know as Mauritania was once a province of the Great Roman Empire. Now, if you understand that and you know how it is that the Romans went about their business, you will also understand that this was a country that already was fairly advanced in terms of development. And you can still witness to date buildings that emanate from the 11th and 12th century. But also it was part of the caravan trade that this region was known for, the caravan trade that went through this region and went into Europe. Okay, so the civilization that the Moors contributed to Europe, that understands to date. But that's a story for another day. The proverb: a donkey which goes to grow a horn returns with the ears cut off. Yes, indeed.
A donkey that goes
to grow a horn
or horns
returns with the ears cut off.
It will not be a donkey anymore.
Bas.
An earless donkey.
An earless donkey.
It won't be a donkey anymore.
No, it won't be. It'll be something else.
It'll be something else.
Yes, it'll be, should we say, a much reduced donkey.
Yes. I get you. Give us the interpretation.
No. Sorry. It's you.
It's me. Maybe it just means that certain things are simply not possible, and I mean, I don't understand. I can say that.
You've actually put it well, and also,
Absolutely.
yes, there are things that people pursue that in reality are actually not possible.
Yes.
And you may say you have achieved what you sought, but in reality you haven't. What you've done is you've lost even what you had to begin with.
Yes.
In pursuing something, you can claim you have gained, but in actual fact, you have lost.
Instead of sticking to your lane and doing the things that you should.
Yes.
Like pursue well and then lose everything, including your family and
Yep.
your
Oh, yes.
your soul.
Yes.
Very
yes,
true.
Yes, easily.
Correct.
Well, that's a good place to start off, is it not? And we're looking at many things happening at the moment, Herman.
Yes.
On Friday, we woke up to, of course, we heard the rumblings before that, but we saw the establishment of at least 7 new state departments within ministries. We saw that there was the shuffling about of permanent secretaries from one place to another. Some permanent secretaries then made economic advisors to the president. Some permanent secretaries moved to ambassadorships, whether that be at the deputy level. Previous cabinet secretaries then also being made permanent representatives. We saw many things happening. And then what we did hear thereafter was that there was a congratulations to the person of Raila Odinga, because what he did was that through the appointments, which clearly he had influence over, he showed the face of Kenya, and that there were appointments made to a lot of his generals into government. The thing that we are looking at now is that really the broad-based government that we had been told about is coming into play. But what does this all mean? And how will it really affect Kenya going forward? That forms some of the conversations that we'd have. I'd like to get your opening views about
Thank
all
you.
of that.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here again once more. This is the center of conversation. With CT here, things can get better.
Thank you very much.
You say so many things happened, which is true. But in the end, nothing happened. Yeah.
How so?
Because it is just the same thing. Many things appear to be happening, but nothing's happening. We say we want a lean government, we expand it more by creating more state departments. So nothing new is happening. We say we are going to reduce the number of advisors, we are adding more. We say we want to bring in the face of Kenya. It is hardly the face of Kenya, because it's the same criminals, the same suspect, the same people. So many things happening, but nothing happening at the same time. That is the contradiction we face in this country. We are unable to move forward. Because moving forward at the level of government means really reorganization of government. It does not matter whether you are giving Raila's buddies jobs, but let us see forward movement. By way of what kind of people are you bringing on board? Are you just recycling the same fellows? Are you going to the same catchment area? You know, the problem in this country, CT, is that when you give somebody the power to select, even in life-threatening situations, even in politically serious situations, they never look beyond certain families, certain catchment areas. Their eyes are fixed in a certain direction. And that's the only place they'll get. They cannot think. Even when for example, let's take a serious thing, even like BBI. Did you see an effort to look for really talent? Because that was a life-changing thing. That was something to turn around this. The people went just look for the same suspects. So even if you give somebody like C.T. Muga the president today, and he knows this country is collapsing, you need to resuscitate it. He will still look in the same direction and see the same people. So nothing will have changed. So agree with you. So much is happening, yet nothing's happening.
But the question that always lingers in my mind is, to what end? You know, we are talking about people who form what we call an elite political class, and who, you argue, seem to understand something about politics, otherwise they wouldn't be where they are. But then you wonder, some of the things they do, to what end? Because if the understanding is to further your political career, but you look at the action, you wonder, how is this going to further your political career? It may do so in the short run, it may. And then what happens?
You see, to understand that city, you have to go even to independence. The preoccupation of the state is the preservation of the presidency from Kenyatta's time. So that efforts, all resources are geared towards ensuring the president remains the president. You see, that then trickles down to other levels. So that the politicians we have, the ones you are talking about, and the people you call your leaders, their number one and perhaps only preoccupation is how to maintain power at whatever level, whether you are the president, a minister, an MP. Everything a member of parliament does is to preserve, to remain the member of parliament that term and get re-elected the next term. So then what you are seeing as openings, what should be able to move the constituents forward, what should be able to move the country forward, the county forward, is not on the table. What is on the table is squarely, how do I remain a governor and how do I get re-elected in the next election?
Which begs the question, Herman, we saw what happened to the country last year, June 25th, and it was an opportunity where Kenyans said what they wanted. The president got rid of his entire cabinet. Then again, he recycled them pretty much. And as we sit here today, we see that the president has accommodated some of the members from the opposition, those that did not believe in his entire goal and agenda, which begs the question, how would they deliver that which they never believed in to start with? Then today we look at ODM as well, getting seats here, and we ask, which way Kenya, which way the president? Is he getting it right?
Dennis, are you aligning political pronouncements with anything close to or even resembles the truth? Political pronouncements are just that.
Yes.
Political pronouncements. For instance,
But one would argue that
Yes.
even the political pronouncements as well would have some weight and semblance of truth that should go into serving the people right.
all right, that is
Yes.
to presume that the people who you are expecting that semblance of truth from are truthful people.
And that they actually care about the people.
So our agreement here is they do not care about the people? And that
No,
their
they do not.
statements-
Actually,
and that their statements should not
this
be taken
isn't
with
something you
weight.
don't answer in euphemism. They don't.
I mean, very clearly, Herman, because this is what, and I think this has been a perennial question, and we've been talking about this pact, that it would appear as though the pact came together for the people of Kenya, for the two sides to come together. It meant that what they were really fighting for was Kenya. And I'm saying, give me a break. That as a result of that coming together over the last 3 weeks, what have we seen that has changed significantly? If anything, things may have gotten monumentally worse. So can you actually see a Kenya that is being looked through looked at or looked over for these appointments that have been made?
You see, he says, if you have a clear agenda about development, and then you are bringing in people from the side that had a completely opposite view of what you had, how then are you going to move development?
Yes.
But then it's not about development. It has never been about development. And that then brings in what you are saying. What would bring the two people together? These people they never fight. They give a semblance of fighting. For the elite to maintain power, they must continuously lead us into believing that they are fighting. That tomorrow can be a better day if one side took over. It's a big lie. Like the lie we went through for Muga, you and I went through, that our parents were meant to believe if they took us to school, we will join the other side. We have never joined. We are exiting before we join. It was a mirage. So the same with these politicians. They make us believe that one side, the Kibaki side, is fighting the Raila side, and the Raila side is better. If the Raila side won, Kenya will be a better place. There's nothing like that. They are the same people. When the time comes to protect, when they see they are about to lose it, like with the Gen Z, they quickly close rank. They come together to protect that which is theirs, which is their interest. They can never allow one of their own to suffer. Look at how some of us thought, maybe I was not one of those, I didn't believe in that. When my friend Gachagua says, the state capture and the first thing we shall do is to go after these people. And then Ruto says, in 30 days, we shall have a commission on state capture. I was laughing. It can't happen. Because if you are to implement that, it means you go for one of your own. They belong in the same club. They are the same people. They do the same businesses. They have the same interests. They cover each other. They look after each other's back. They can never, ever do anything to injure. So when a few Doba sheep are stolen from Huru's farm, I just laugh. It can't go beyond that. It's just a joke. None of them can go for Huru's property. They cannot. And even if Ruto leaves today, nobody will go for his property.
I think of the biblical story when soldiers were being asked to come for and look for 100 men, and then they said, look for the ones who run with their hand on the belt, then eliminate them. Look for the ones who steep or kneel to drink water, and look for the ones who stand to drink water. It was eliminating them one by one,
Yes.
Or tens by tens.
Yes.
And so here we are also asking the question, then, if you're eliminating those who seem to have personal interest, eliminating those who seem to just be standing on the brinks of, political expediency, who is for Kenya?
You know what
Who is standing? Who is left standing?
You know what we're discussing here?
You want to be like, she wants to be like the late, God rest his soul. This Meru man who was minister for Muraria. It was agreed that there was such a serious rot in the procurement department in this country, I mean the procurement sector, and especially the treasury, that something drastic had to be done. And everybody thought we should either disband the procurement department or have a complete overhaul. You know what Manyara said? Where will you get people? Where will you get other people? That kind of thinking, you see. There are people. And any country that transforms itself, that moves from one step to another step, that country will always have done drastic things. There must be a serious paradigm shift for a country to change. And that's why it's never done within the context of the normal elections. You have elections. You'll be very lucky if through an election you can get a transformative leader. Like,
yes.
Some of these countries, maybe I think Senegal, they have tried.
They've tried. The example.
El Salvador.
They've tried.
Sometimes it happens. But usually you'll find this kind of people come through means that are unorthodox. Look at Cote d'Ivoire, for example. A person like that can transform that country. Like the guy before him who was assassinated, Sankara. It has to be really transformative. And there are people who say they are not people. People are there.
The Chinese model of leadership has been criticized resoundingly by the West, and yet it works.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the transformation process of the Chinese society has not been carried out by one leader. It has been a succession of leaders. And yet, they've had the same goal. Because if they didn't, or they didn't share in that vision, they wouldn't be where they are. But look at that system again, and look at how it is they grow their leaders. There's nobody who has ended up being chairman of the party who was not a youth participant.
Who's risen.
They all rise through the ranks.
Yes.
So they all know how this system works. And that vision, what they do is put a little cherry on top of that particular vision. They add theirs, they look at the times. And because it is actually a collective decision-making process, because that's what it actually is. I remember it was last month I was reading China Daily, but I read China Daily every day. Okay? When they had the meeting, it happens once a year, but a meeting of all the officials of the Chinese Communist Party, all of them. Now, to be a member or a leader of the Chinese Communist Party, it has nothing to do with where you went to school. You could be a cobbler, you could be a mason, you could be a border guy, you are a member. And when you go to that meeting, your voice is as important as the next.
Yes.
Now, what they come to do is to express and state, given where they come from, what it is that their people need and want. Now, if this person is the one who is the leader who has been chosen as in elected by the people, it doesn't matter what job you do, but it tells you that is somebody who can actually have what you call a voice of the people, because he is one of the people as you say. He's a simple Bonanji. But you see, where our system fails is people aspire, yes, to be like the leaders, but the leaders set such horrible examples that when you find somebody aspiring, you wonder, now, if this person aspires, where exactly will we get to?
Yeah.
And if this person actually gets there, where on earth will we get to? You see, if you find yourself in a situation like the one we find ourselves in Kenya, where the aspiration of people to join government is not to serve, but to enrich themselves, what more do you need to be told? It is the same money that we collect that is supposed to achieve all the processes and progress that we need. It is the same money that they want to pilfer. So what will remain for development? Even if they wanted to bring about development, what will remain?
After they have eaten all.
Yes. It's the same money.
You see, but even the China, you say they had to make a break with some past.
It was a rather brutal break.
Yeah. It comes back to what I'm saying. There must be a break with the past. There must be a new beginning. A radical new beginning. You know, the story of the chairman Mao Zedong.
Yes.
You know, it was a major radical break with the past to set a new path for China. For beginning with a person who had a vision for the country. He looked at the population and wondered, if we were to use a Western model,
this is not going to work for us.
Can we really manage a country of so many hundreds of millions of people?
No.
And the answer was no. And therefore, that vision is what is leading China today. We lack a vision in this country. And that's why I say it must be a leader with a vision to change the country as we know it. For us, because we cannot go back to those days where people are doing things like military coups, and because we can't go there. Those are already outdated and their time has passed. It must be in the manner of what happened, I think, in Senegal, and I'm giving an example of El Salvador, where people break with the so-called big political parties. A major break with established politicians, with established political formations. And the Kenyans know that through these people will never bother new Kenya. They see things in the same way.
And they're unlikely to
and they will not change anything. If you ask any of them in this studio, what can you do that can transform this country? None of them has the answer. They see Kenya with Kibra and Kawangwara and that to them is normal.
Yes.
So you need a person who can come and say, within 10 years of my being president of this country, the worst place in Nairobi will be a place like Buruburu. That will be the lowest a human being can stay in. You know, there will be building, houses, a program to ensure Kenyans live like human beings.
Right.
You think these people can see like that?
No. That's a good question, and a question for us to take a break on. Herman Manyara, political analyst, is our guest this hour, and we're looking at all right, so an all-inclusive government, as it were. But the question is, for who? It's 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. The conversation continues after this short break.
Daily Nuggets with ZD Money Market Fund. Taking control of your finances starts with a plan. Pataka kitu kila siku na ZD Money Market Fund powered by M-Pesa. Start investing directly from your M-Pesa. Opt in via M-Pesa app or dial *334#.
Grow your money daily with ZD Money Market Fund, powered by M-Pesa. Opt in on your M-Pesa app or dial *334# today. Terms and conditions apply.
Dental Tips, brought to you by Sensodyne. The gentle touch. Did you know brushing too hard can damage your enamel and cause tooth sensitivity? Use a soft bristled toothbrush and Sensodyne toothpaste for daily repair and long-lasting protection.
Sensodyne gives you long-lasting protections against sensitivity. But I recommend Sensodyne because it works. It's brilliant.
It an all-inclusive government. Just looking at, lots of people have a lot of things to say, and I think they're really important about where Kenyans' minds are. And just picking into one of those is actually the most recent one. Salma is saying, and I just want to pass that question on to you, is that the problem here is that a lot of the leaders who come into these positions are out of touch with reality. Is that the case here?
Of course, many of them are clueless. Many of them, like Siti Muga said, really see that as an opportunity to add more shillings to the money they already have. And even if there's one or two whose intention is, for example, you are given a ministry, and I sympathize with some of them, like my friend Mutai Kagwe. They are performers and they are workers. They really want to work. The question is, have you been given that job to do it? The person who gives you the job, does he give you the intention that you do the job? So you'll find you are out of place. At the university, we got into a point, if you are a good lecturer, students will hate you. If you want to attend all your classes, if you want them to read, if you want to be strict with your marking, they will hate you.
Why?
During our days, those are the people we loved. So the same with the government. If you went in government and try to work, everybody around you is stealing, but you want to be the one working. Nobody will like you. Actually, they will frustrate you, from your juniors to your peers and your colleagues, and and then the people who appoint you into positions. Do they, in the first place, want you to work? The answer is obviously no. So they want you to be either a conduit, or at best do the things they want in terms of employing their cronies, their people, so that you land as a PS, like those who are appointed recently. They will soon be bombarded, the new ones, with the lists of people to hire. So your work is to look for where to fix those people, because there's no space. Kenya has already almost overemployed. Every ministry is overstaffed. But you have a list of 300. That's your first assignment, to fix them somewhere. You get it? Then you realize you also need to bring your 200. Then you attend meetings and see everybody wants money. So you also join them. And they know how to entrap you. I've seen colleagues of mine, friends of mine, who become principal secretaries and these big things they become. You can see how the transformation, how you change first into a robot. You stop thinking. So yes, there can be people who have the capacity to think, but the ecosystem within which they operate makes it very difficult for even a diligent, intelligent person to deliver, because then you are out of place. They say, if you are normal in a place where people are abnormal, you are the one who is abnormal.
No.
You get it?
Herman, you've talked about the fact that the system as is not meant to work for the Mwananchi, and that the leadership that we have lacks vision. You stated that we need to break from the current way of doing things. We need to sit and look at the way forward and that which will work for us. So you've given examples like what happened in China. They broke out. How will Kenyans, or what must Kenyans do moving forward for them to get a government that works for them? Because as is, the individuals we have just think about themselves and how rich they will get.
You see, there are two ways, and I've said that the first way is outdated. The countries that changed, even Russia, from a country that went to war barefoot, soldiers, with a harsh Russian winter. Within a couple of years, less than about 5-6 years, it was already a superpower. You get it? Fidel transformed the slave colony of Cuba into a modern state. Those are people who came through revolutionary means. And I'm saying that may not be available to us today, because we are living in the 21st century. If somebody from the barracks woke up today and say, serikali imependuliwa, like we had in 1982, police wakae kama raia, he will sound so crazy I'm telling you, people will be shocked. What is this guy talking about? It can't work. So you can't go in that direction. So how can people aware that we need change and yet we can't get it the way other people go? That was open to other people in those years. Today it must be a conscious effort first to realize that the current leadership we have, leadership I don't mean Ruto, I just mean that crop of people will not deliver this country. Once we realize that, then we come to the next stage. What do we do? And we already have some answer. The Gen Z almost provided the answer. They showed a people can move forward without relying on these so-called leaders. You get it? They were faceless, leaderless, tribeless, and otherless. Not less Wanyika, but otherless. I know when she hears less, he remembers less Wanyika. They were otherless, tribeless, leaderless, restless, and so those less. That was a clear indication that it is possible for our movement to take over without relying. I want to use the word over relying, it's slightly better, without over relying on established political figures. So that if we wanted to deliver this country in 2027, if we made it a movement, a revolutionary movement, to sweep the current leadership off and install a new leadership. And by the way, it doesn't mean the young men and women, the Gen Zs and the millennials must go to State House. They can own the process and they use some of these established people, like Alonzo Musyokas and the rest, to midwife the process. But they do it in such a way, they are the ones in control. You see, that is possible. If the Gen Zs were organized, they have the numbers to take over power. So that if they install you as City Muga, Fred Matiang'i, whatever you are, Kalonzo Musyoka, you are there only in a transitional manner. Yeah, some kind of regent if you wish. But Kenya will move to the next level of young leadership. Because this country can only be served by young leadership.
Those who are in leadership today at some point were young potential leaders. That's the truth.
That's the truth.
If you want to look at the president that you have today, YK92.
Yes. Young Turks.
Exactly. Yeah. We look at somebody who had huge potential and then rose up in the ranks, was, shepherded, and then midwifed essentially to this position where he is today by the late former president Arap Moi. That happened in the glare of everybody. But then the question is, what have leaders done with the opportunities that they have been given? You've risen to the highest possible position in the country in terms of leadership. What have you done with it? And what's to ensure that anybody who's coming up in the ranks later will do differently? I keep saying, Herman, that you don't have any business as a government doing anything if your people are sick, if your people are hungry, if your children are uneducated. That ought to be your business. When that is done, you can now start to do other things. But we seem to be involved in the business of doing these other things when Kenyans are suffering. I mean, we shouldn't be talking about a failed health system, not today.
You see, the national preoccupation in this country, other than the one of preservation of self in terms of if you are president, if you are governor and whatever, other than that, the national preoccupation in this country is chasing money. And money for the sake of money. There is no room for anything else. Even those things you are saying about health, about education, they don't feature anywhere. I keep asking Kenyans, City Muga, when you put on your nice suit, tie and everything, you go to the office, Jogo House, where Treasury, all those government offices. If you had to be honest to yourself at the end of the day, what have you done? If you had to be honest to yourself, if you don't answer Manyara or anybody, if you are a principal secretary, just answer yourself if you are listening to me. At the end of the year, take stock. Have I ever done anything in the interest of this ministry, in the interest of the people? The answer will be no. Everything you have done has been deals. You go to the office and you begin deals from morning until you leave. You go for lunch, which is a deal lunch. You use government facilities just to do deals. There is nothing they do. Because if they ever did anything to move this country forward, a country with such a great potential, we would be very far. Very far. If anybody who is employed at that high level were ever to do something small towards the interests of the country and deliver what the ministry or the department is meant to, this country will be very far, extremely far.
But does that not point to something very disturbing? Because they aren't the only ones who view their role in life in that light. The citizenry also seem to share that perspective. Because every time I hear people talking about we need to elect the right people, and every once in a while somebody who's elected is promising. And then once elected, you actually have to wonder what happened.
It's the ecosystem
It's
that
the
is rotten.
system. It's
The political
system.
culture, the national culture is so polluted. If you are the right person, you are out of place. I've said it. So you elect a woman into parliament or a young man, and you think they will think about the people they represent. They go there and join the rest.
They drink the Kool-Aid. and
They
get drunk
become
on the
hyenas,
thing.
all of them. Because you see, it is so contagious.
Then we have to change.
Contagious that
Then we have to change the conversation.
Yes.
Do we, as a citizenry, understand our rights, and do we understand the powers that our constitution has given us?
you see what is required, and I want to repeat this, is the realization that we cannot deliver a new Kenya
The current system.
using the current leadership, the current crop of people we have. And Kenyans must have a departure, a complete break. And this is quite possible. It's a simple realization that these people will not deliver this country. So what do? We look for individuals who are not quite like these other people. But we own the process.
But
it
Herman,
can't be everybody. You see, it can't be everybody.
Herman, I want you to harp on this one.
Yes.
On the process, what do you mean?
For example, let's use the Gen Z, for example. I'm sorry to overuse them.
No?
They came up with a sort of revolution. There was
Yes.
a revolution. Whether you like it, you can call it what you want to call it.
Yes.
But a revolution in the sense in which a revolution is a new radical way of doing things, which is always a major departure. Okay? I know some people will argue revolutions must be bloody, and
No,
it's
they
not
don't.
always. There are examples. Somebody challenging me, I was giving a talk. Somebody challenging me, no, Manyara, this. I told him, I know what you are talking about. Malcolm X said, there ain't no revolution without bloodshed. We know all that. And he quoted Mau Mau and everything. But there are many revolutions that are not bloody. So that was quite a revolution. The people behind that revolution can do exactly what you're asking, how it can be done. They can come up with a way that makes it possible for this country to move forward.
You see,
We're talking about a revolution that would take place, but let's look at that revolution, the way it happened, and how the current crop of leadership took advantage of that to give themselves mileage. Seems as though there is a lot more work that needs to come from the people themselves in order to sustain the movement and the persistence for that revolution and the change that they want, you reckon?
how do we exactly perceive leadership as a citizenry? Do we think, beyond talking, that
Yes.
we have a mandate to hold leaders to account?
We have all the power within our hands.
We do, but do we believe we should? Because every time I hear people saying we need a different kind of leadership, it's like we want someone else to do this. So what part do you play? Every time this conversation comes up, we are told, yeah, but you seem to be blaming. I said, no. It isn't blame. If we've seen people who we consider to be good, reasonable, forward-looking, being corrupted by the system, what is it that we are doing wrong? Because we think electing them would help. We have elected them. And then we see, do we believe as Kenyans, as Africans, that we must hold our leaders to account? We're not insulting them, holding them to account.
But I hear you, and I hear what CT is saying, and so the question would be, if the Kenyan citizenry believed that they should, that we would see a different output. And I'm just going to again bring this with one comment that we see from all of our listeners, say that if we went the Swiss way, which CT you give an example of all the time, whereby it is upon you directly as an individual, then you form another nucleus and then you form a community to be involved with what happens with your government. So that when the Swiss want to build a road, guess what? Everybody has said yes or no.
If they say no, that road is not being
It's
built.
not being built. You're not spending that money to do anything. So whether you sit in a position of leadership, what you're doing is that you are definitely representing the people. And that was systemized from the beginning of the way they started to do things. So is there an overhaul that's needed in the system? So that when you get into the system, whatever Kool-Aid you drink, you're still working along with the system. But the people keep governance accountable, because it is you today, it could be me tomorrow. And we realize that that position has to keep switching, has to keep swapping. Are Kenyans actually ready to do that?
Yes. I think it's already happening. And we are in this studio as an example. A lot of that is happening. There's a lot of push. There's a lot of awareness. But see, Timuga, you see, there is the role of leadership in creating national consciousness. That's why if you look at many revolutions and change moments, the oppressor always goes for people who work on consciousness. So that in South Africa, the Boers they are less worried about Mandela than Steve Biko, because then Steve Biko is about consciousness. Dedan Kimathi is about consciousness, and not Kenyatta. So, people like Bob Marley, it is the role of certain leaders to create consciousness among the people. And once people have that consciousness, then they move to the next level of changing things. And that's why I keep going back to the Gen Zs. They made Kenyans aware that certain things are possible. Things we had not thought possible. They made that possible. It became something you can achieve. You can change things in a certain way. So once that consciousness has been created among the people, and it can be created not necessarily by an individual, but by happenings, like what happened last year in June, that can create consciousness. People can see, we all the people are able to see that we have allowed people to sit on us for years on end, but our children have said no. So that saying no is quite a statement.
You know what, Herman? And this is a thing, and I want to just jump in here, because I think today is the day when, just looking at what Kenyans have to say, that everybody keeps saying, why do we keep going back to the Gen Z why does everything that you say have to come from that Gen Z protest? And I'm of the opinion that marked a turning point for how Kenya does its business in terms of governance, in terms of politics, in terms of interaction, the accountability that you speak of. Maybe that's what was needed. And I think it will forever be in history books in terms of what happened on the 25th of June moving forward. And I want us to disabuse ourselves from the notion that it was it has become a thing of jest when we say, well, after all, look at the Gen Z. For me, it's actually a turning point. And if you look at history, in many nations, you will always have that one thing that clicked. And for me, I think
the underlying problems will always be there.
Absolutely. But that one thing clicked, and then you say, okay, hang on. It's possible to envision
it's that opening the eyes. This is possible. So two things. So those who think the Gen Z thing wasn't anything, Americans will tell them you ain't seen no nothing. That's number one. If you underrate that, then I just want to inform you, you are not informed properly. The second thing is, if, as I think, this thing has not died, which is the second thing, because people think it has died. If it has not died and it is reactivated, then people will see what I'm talking about. They will manage 2027 like they are just on Instagram. It will be like being on Instagram, like enjoying on TikTok. These guys have the potential to do things we will all be watching and just with our mouth open. How is this possible? They have the potential to deliver the 2027 election in the direction they want. All of us will be bystanders. First, they have the numbers. Okay? Two, they have organizational capacity that, as we saw, that is unimaginable. Okay? You saw how they organized in the digital space. We can't match them. Numbers, organizational capacity, consciousness. You see? They're not willing to accept the status quo, that they want a new Kenya. And they are determined about it. If you put all these things together, and the fact that you cannot steal an election from them, tell me how they are not a force. This is the biggest force that, and in my understanding of history and literature, CTU, you belong to that space.
I do.
Change is always brought about by young people. They have the energy. There is some level of carelessness CT Muga and I can't, which you have. You know, before I do something I care about.
You think?
This is unaenda tu. Unaweka kifua mbele unaenda. It is that part of youth that brings change in many societies. Without youth on your side, there is no revolution that can succeed.
Do you think
there's no change you can put on the table if you travel without the young in society?
You know,
you
do you think that
something
people are
about
conscious? Because right now we are at, I think there's a high level of consciousness right now in terms of governance in Kenya. Whether that is going to birth a different kind of leadership remains for us to see. We don't know.
Actually, it has already.
Sure. But do you think that when people are making the decision, and I'm talking about now on that day when you're lining up in kilometers, are people thinking, I am voting in Dennis because of 1, 2, 3, in terms of what is going to happen in the future? Do people make that decision in that manner?
You see, that's a very difficult question. It will be naive of me to say that people think critically and say, okay, Ruto and Raila have gone on one side and they want to mess this country. They want to abort change, okay? Let us vote Kalonzo.
No.
Let's vote Fred Matiang'i. No, I don't think that's the case. You just have to go back to 2002. You were there, City, I was there. Maybe these two are not there. But you must know what it was. So that people who are going to vote Rainbow, it's not so much a question of conscious thinking about Kibaki.
Yes.
No.
In fact,
they were not even thinking of
if it wasn't the movement, if it wasn't the euphoria, if it wasn't what was in the air, Kibaki would never have been voted in as president. So there's something that is created. People would call it a wave. It is that wave that is making you vote in the way you are voting. It's not necessarily consciously thinking, no, these past politicians have messed us, therefore let's vote in this person who is backed by Gen Z. No, it is a wave that has been created.
It
becomes
rational.
Part of the national consciousness. Yeah. So if you are conscious as you are voting, it's not at an individual level. It's a national consciousness that is driven by a wave, a movement that then propels people to vote in a certain direction.
Do you know why I say the change is with us? If there's one thing that Gen Zs have learned, is not to rear their heads too early. They saw the repercussions of what happened on the 25th. You think they do not know? They know. You think they're not aware? They're aware. And Herman is right. I don't think for a single second they've stopped planning and plotting. No. They've understood they need to be quiet, they need to be silent, and what they're doing and thinking must not be in the public domain. That one they have learned. So when it comes to determining the sort of leadership they have in mind, I am certain that in the many, many, many meeting places they have online, this is something they discuss and they hash out every other day. So they know. So talk about the change that has taken place, or it's with us. Talking about the leadership, the moment you have a thought process that has changed, the leadership has changed. It hasn't just manifested, but has changed.
Allow me to say this because I know time is up.
It is.
We are not talking about doom.
No, this is not doom.
We are not even saying President Ruto will be swept out of power or somebody will be swept into power. Only we are saying there are two sides. The side that wants to remove Ruto must know the potential of Gen Z, and without which they will not remove Ruto. That's number one for them. And for Ruto, he must be aware that he cannot resist the change. That will be a dream. If we were to embrace the change by listening to what it is the Gen Zs were saying last year, it can as well survive. But to play games So that they say reshuffle, remove government, they resign, then you return the same people. Those are games. Those ones will not take you far.
It's like somebody's having a heart
Just
attack.
manage
and
the
you
change.
give them
No, that
antibiotics.
this country has gotten to a place where people must see really change.
Yes.
No illusion. So if for Ruto that's what it is, just know that the country has gotten to a place where games can't work anymore.
So let me ask you,
You get
quickly,
it?
because we have seconds.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yes.
Dennis. Quickly. So are you saying essentially that if the president were to wake up today and say, hang on a minute, guys, this is where the change is going, and I want to be an agent of that change, and I'm going to switch things around, people will say, then by all
Correct.
means, change the constitution, stay there for the next
Yes,
50
and he
years.
must manage it well. And people can see games. They can see if you are buying time. They can see through it. If you are genuine, they can see it. If you want to change, you call a national conversation, a national convention, where Kenyans have a national conversation about the things they want, those which can be done now, those which can be done only in election 2027, those that can come later. People can see genuine concern. If you want to create hope for the future, people can see it. And the president still has time, except that time is running out. If we were to manage the change, like you say, to be the one midwifing the change, not standing in the way of change, because I can tell the president for free, you cannot stand in the way of this change. It is too strong.
There you
but
go.
you can manage it and do your second term.
Herman Manyara,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Always being here is a pleasure for us, but also just gaining insights into some of the things that we should be thinking. Powerful way to start the thing, I think, for sure, and some thoughts for us to take away as we continue with conversations. Herman Manyara, political analyst, has been here with us this morning, starting off the conversations in the hot seat. Asante Sana.
Thank you.
Good morning, 8 a.m.
And with your permission.